chosen one? How many times have you tried to fit into spaces that didn't speak to your soul? How many times have you smiled while, deep inside, something within you screamed that you were in the wrong place, surrounded by the wrong people, living a reality that never felt like your own? There's a reason for that, and it goes far beyond what you were taught. This video is not just a simple reflection, it's a calling, a spiritual breaking away from everything that once limited you. Because if you carry, in your hands, the mark of the letter M or the sign of the crescent moon, know that you are not here by accident. And more than that, you are not 100% human. Your soul was sent with codes this world does not recognize. Your very existence is a threat to the system that wants everyone asleep, obedient, and the same. But you were not born for that. You were born to awaken, to confront, to illuminate. And that's why I now invite you to do 3 simple but deeply spiritual things. Comment below, "I know who I am," and release in the spiritual realm the recognition of your true identity. Click the subscribe button and join a community that, like you, is remembering what they are, what they carry, and why they were sent. And finally, leave a like. This action helps this message reach other chosen ones who, like you, need to wake up now. Now, take a deep breath. Be silent within. Because what you are about to hear was not made for the weak nor for the conformed. It was made for those who already sense that the truth they carry in their hands does not belong to this world. From a very young age, something about you disturbed the environment. It wasn't what you said, nor how you dressed. It was your mere presence. Where everyone else seemed to fit in naturally, you felt like you were just passing through. Where others found comfort, you experienced restlessness. Nothing ever seemed to be enough. No explanation offered by this world could answer the questions burning in your chest. And so, little by little, you learned to be silent, but you were never able to dim your light. And even when you tried to live like everyone else except what they said, silence your intuition, force a sense of belonging, there was always a deep silence inside of you whispering, "This isn't everything," and it wasn't. You were not shaped by the surface of life. What pulses in your spirit comes from another source. You carry codes that cannot be explained by logic or biology. Your body dwells on Earth, but your consciousness, that came from afar. There is a frequency within you that disturbs the sleepers because it awakens in them the memory of everything they chose to forget. That's why they judged you as strange. That's why they tried to silence you. That's why so many times, even you wanted to doubt yourself, but the truth always returns, always insists, always comes back with more strength, more clarity, more intensity. Because you are not from here, and you never were. And now, something in you recognizes that the moment has come. You can no longer deny it, nor delay it. The calling is echoing, the awakening is underway. And in this new cycle, you either align with your origin, or you will keep getting lost on paths that were never meant for you. Few have the courage to accept this. But if you carry the letter M or the crescent moon drawn on your hands, through natural lines, know this: it is not an anatomical detail. It is a revelation. A spiritual signature, a silent reminder that your origin is not common. You were encoded with a calling that predates your arrival on Earth. These marks are like secret maps left by the Creator in rare vessels marking those who were sent with a mission. It's not about luck or appearance, it's about lineage, spiritual inheritance. They are signs left by the heavens in a world that constantly tries to erase your memory. Ancestral cultures knew this. Spiritual masters knew. But the current system wanted to convince you that everything boils down to flesh, bones, and coincidence. And for a time, maybe you believed it. Maybe you looked at your hands and saw nothing but lines. But now, Now your eyes are awakening. The letter M and the crescent moon are portals, not physical portals, but vibrational ones. They mark your separation from the common human pattern. They indicate that you carry a mission of healing, leadership, protection, or revelation. They indicate that you were sent to be a breaking point within a cycle of repetition. They indicate that you are a bridge between realms. And maybe you never felt comfortable with that responsibility. Maybe you ran from it, or tried to forget it. But the mark remains, like a divine seal, like a visible reminder of something invisible. Because no matter how much they try to convince you that you are just one more, heaven has already decided otherwise. And now, what was once just a trace on your skin becomes the living proof that your existence is chosen, sealed, and guided by something far greater. From a very early age, you noticed there was something strange about how the world worked. Shallow conversations bored you. Rules felt empty. The paths so many followed obediently seemed to you like invisible prisons, and for a long time that hurt, because you tried to fit in, tried to seem normal, tried to pretend you didn't feel what you felt. But no matter how hard you tried, something inside you always pulled you away from the crowd. That discomfort is not a flaw. It's not a defect. It's the proof that you belong to another vibration, another plane, another purpose. Yes, you were sent to live among humans, but not to become like them. You were called to be the exception, not the rule. To be a beacon, not the multitude. And that's exactly why everything felt more intense in your life. The attacks, the disappointments, the silence. Everything felt deeper, crueler, heavier. Because you were surrounded by codes that didn't resonate with your origin. But now that you're remembering, now that the truth is being restored within you, notice this. Your discomfort was always the sign that you came with a higher frequency. You were born among men, but your soul was forged in eternity. The world tried to fool you, tried to convince you that you were strange, weak, too sensitive. But your sensitivity was your radar. Your strangeness was your gift. Your apparent fragility was the shelter of an unbreakable spirit. They mocked what they couldn't understand. But what is heavenly is rarely recognized by earthly eyes. So do not carry shame for not belonging anymore. Carry honor. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to reveal. Have you noticed how, from the very beginning, everything around you conspired to make you doubt yourself? How every grand dream was attacked. Every attempt at authenticity was ridiculed, and every spontaneous spark was silenced by voices asking you to be more realistic? That is no coincidence. It's strategy. The system of this world, invisible to common eyes but active in every social, emotional, and spiritual structure, always knew who you were before you even remembered, and that's why it attacked you so intensely. It saw your light before you learned to ignite it. It sensed your potential when you still crawled through doubt. And so it surrounded you with layers of insecurity, limiting expectations, and routines that dull your essence. The truth is, the system fears the awakened. It fears those who do not surrender to illusion. It fears those who dare to look beyond the surface, because those are the only ones who cannot be manipulated. And if you carry the mark of the letter M or the crescent moon in your hands, that fear intensifies. Because those marks are not symbolic, they are spiritual. They are the seal of those who came to break chains, not to carry them, to open paths, not to follow worn-out trails. That's why, with every step toward your truth, the system will try to pull you back. It will send doubts disguised as common sense. It will use loved ones to sow uncertainty. It will try to convince you that your calling is just a delusion, but it's not. That resistance you feel is the proof that you're getting closer to your real identity. The pressure always increases when revelation is near. Don't be afraid of the chaos surrounding you. It's only the symptom of a world trying to stop your remembrance. But the calling inside you is older than any system. It wasn't born here, and therefore, nothing from here can stop it. You are awakening, and the world feels it. That's why it reacts. But the one who carries the truth does not need to fear any lie. Since ancient times, there have always been two types of people inhabiting this world: those who belong to it and those who are just passing through. The difference between these two groups is not in the clothes they wear, nor the language they speak. It is in the soul's vibration, in the spirit's origin. Those who belong to the world live by what they see. They follow the flow of the system. They accept what they're taught without question. They work, consume, sleep, repeat. They are children of the environment, shaped by circumstances, fed by illusions. And this is not judgment, it is simply reality. But there are others, a quiet, restless group that, since childhood, has felt something is out of place. People who ask themselves why everything feels so automatic, so shallow, so soulless. These are the ones who don't belong to the world. They are the sent ones. The ones who come from another origin, from a higher vibration, from a spiritual lineage that goes beyond the boundaries of matter. If you have the mark of the crescent moon or the letter M in your hands, that separation becomes even more evident, because these marks are like fingerprints of your mission. They are seals left by the spirit so that when the right time came, you would know. You are one of them, one of the few who were chosen not to adapt, but to awaken. This division is not something you choose. It was already written. And when you try to fit into a world that wasn't made for you, everything begins to fall apart. Because the world rejects what it cannot control. It resists what it does not understand. And you were never meant to be understood. You were meant to transform. Those who belong to the world will call you strange. They'll laugh at your intuition. They'll say you're overreacting, that spirituality is nonsense, that you think too much. But all of this is because they feel, even without understanding, that you carry something that confronts them. You are a living reminder that there is more. And those who live asleep hate being awakened. So when you feel like you don't belong, celebrate. Because that feeling is proof that your origin is sacred. It's confirmation that your soul comes from somewhere else and was sent with a mission the world still can't understand, but that it will be forced to respect. Have you ever noticed how, even without trying, your simple presence bothers some people? Have you noticed that even when you speak with respect, walk in humility, or simply enter a room, something shifts in the atmosphere? Doors close without explanation. Looks turn cold. Relationships that seemed promising suddenly collapse. That's not a coincidence, that's energy. A spiritual chosen one with the mark of the letter M or the crescent moon on their hands carries a different vibration. A presence that unmasks environments, that reveals what was hidden, that disturbs what is asleep. And the world, so used to darkness, fears any spark of light that dares to enter. When a chosen one walks into a room, they bring a mirror. Not a physical mirror, but a reflection of what others don't want to see in themselves. Your light exposes shadow. Your presence reveals superficiality. Your sensitivity breaks down coldness. And that's why many will try to stay away. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they're not ready for what you awaken inside them. Your energy is like a spiritual alarm, and not everyone wants to wake up. Some will judge you without reason, others will try to discredit you, they'll spread lies, they'll exclude you from circles. But all of that is the reaction of a system that senses it's losing control. Because you, simply with your presence, are already dismantling invisible structures. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to prove anything. You are, and that is enough. The very existence of a chosen one is a threat to a world that lives on appearances. And once you begin to recognize that, something changes. You stop blaming yourself. You stop trying to understand why things don't flow for you like they do for others. You begin to accept that your path will be different, because your mission is greater. And as much as that resistance hurts, because yes, it does hurt, it also confirms you. No chosen one goes unnoticed. And if the world attacks you, it's because heaven has already approved you. Since a very early age, the system around us tried to convince us that in order to be loved, accepted, and recognized, we would have to conform. That we should speak a certain way, dress a certain way, follow a pre-approved script designed by a society that, in truth, never saw our essence. And so, many chosen ones began to silence their truths, hide their light, dim their gifts, all just to be accepted in places that would never truly understand them. But this is the most dangerous trap, because when a chosen one tries to fit in, they stop occupying the space for which they were sent. They shrink themselves to fit into places where the greatness of their soul will never be understood. They trade authenticity for approval, and in that process, they lose their strength, their identity, their direction. You were spiritually programmed to break patterns, not to submit to them. Your spirit carries activation codes that don't function in environments of conformity. Your energy was made to transform, not to settle. And that's why, every time you try to fit in, something inside you screams. A discomfort grows, a void settles in. Because your being knows you are denying your own nature. You might pretend that everything is fine. You might even smile, wear masks, follow the rules. But deep inside, in the place no one sees, your soul is begging for freedom. And it's at this point that many chosen ones become ill. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. Because living outside your truth comes at a high price, and you did not come to pay that price. You came to live with purpose. When you understand that you don't need to be understood by everyone, that you don't need to belong to groups that invalidate your essence, and that you should not mutilate yourself spiritually just to please, then, yes, your path will begin to open with lightness. The true allies of your mission will not ask you to hide. They will recognize your light and walk with you even if they don't understand everything. They will respect your presence even when your truth is uncomfortable. So stop seeking approval where you only find rejection. Stop trying to fit into places where your soul has to shrink. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to expand. And that expansion only happens when you choose truth over adaptation. Now that the truth has been revealed that you are not 100% human, that you carry within you a divine essence that does not conform to earthly structures, the most important question arises: if I wasn't made to fit into the world, then what was I made for? What is my true purpose? The answer is as deep as it is simple. You were made to remember and to awaken. Chosen one, you did not come into this world just to survive, pay bills, repeat routines, and live a mediocre existence. You were sent with a specific mission: to bring light where darkness reigns, to break patterns where stagnation rules, and to activate in others what you first had to awaken in yourself. Your purpose is not about fame, status, or human recognition. It's about invisible impact, but eternal. It's about vibrating so highly in truth that your mere presence provokes healing, awakening, and transformation in the environments you walk through. Your purpose is to be a bridge between dimensions, to be a living memory of what is divine in a world that has forgotten its origin. You were called to be a guardian of the light, and that takes courage. It requires you to refuse to live anesthetized, to never negotiate your conscience, and to have the boldness to say yes to the mission even when the whole world says no. That is why, throughout your journey, you have faced so many trials. Because every chosen one must be prepared before being sent. Every soul that is sent must walk through the desert before reaching the promised land. The traumas, the rejections, the pains you endured, they weren't punishments, they were spiritual trainings. And now, with awakened eyes and an activated spirit, you have the responsibility to live what you were prepared to live. Maybe your purpose involves healing, teaching, guiding, creating, writing, speaking, serving, or maybe it simply involves being a conscious and aligned presence in a world that lives on autopilot. But one thing is certain, if you feel you don't belong in this world, it's because you were sent to transform it. Your calling does not begin when everything is perfect. It begins the moment you say, I accept. Because when a chosen one accepts who they really are, heaven moves, the universe aligns, and the mission begins to manifest in the physical realm with supernatural force. Now there is no more doubt. You know who you are. You know why you never fit in, and you know deeply that this feeling of being out of place was never a mistake. It was always a calling. You are no longer asleep. The truth has been ignited within you, and it can no longer be ignored. You carry the breath of God, the signature of the eternal, the code of a mission that began even before your birth. The letter M and the crescent moon in your hands are not mere details, they are physical confirmations of a spiritual origin that goes beyond human understanding. And now that this has been activated in you, the only question that remains is simple. Will you continue living as if nothing happened? Or will you start living as someone who carries a sacred purpose? The time of waiting is over. The world may not understand, but the chosen did not come to be understood. They came to fulfill. They came to shake the system, to confront lies with light, to restore, to reveal, to awaken. The earth needs your light, and you can no longer hide. So, if this message touched your soul, if something inside you burned with every word, leave a comment. I accept my calling. This will be your spiritual seal, your public declaration to the universe that you will no longer remain silent. And if you feel you belong to this mission, subscribe now to the channel Wisdom Ascension. Here, you will find nourishment for the spirit, deep revelations, and a silent army of other chosen ones who, just like you, are awakening to who they truly are. Because now, you are being revealed. Because the world needs and has always needed your light.